Hey there, I'm Tim. I've been doing PoE 1 builds, rather experienced in that, and I wanted to start trying on PoE 2. This is my first PoE 2 season. Um, the way I approached the game was on a Chaos switch, but I definitely had the goal in mind to go for Spectres. Um, the thing that I really dislike about the game right now is that it's very railroaded. So you got certain archetypes. So for example, if I want to do chaos damage, I always will do chaos through two specific skills, Contagion and Essence Drain. There's nothing I can do to do chaos damage differently. Because there simply aren't that many skills, and especially you can't really mix them, so a person that will take like one specific type won't really be able to mix it with another specific type. It's pretty combo intensive where you have to hit multiple buttons to execute the combos. Um, and I think that turns off a lot of PoE1 players and me as well. But now you got Spectres, which pretty much redo this whole thing. So while there aren't that many skills, there are a lot of Spectres, and Spectres are very, very unique in PoE2 because they got very specific skills that they can spam, especially a lot of spells. So let's say I get bored in PoE1 of my specific ED Contagion combo because it's very repetitive. I will not be able to swap easily. I have to redo my whole build. It's a whole different thing with Spectres, however. So for example, I'm using these two Spectres right now, which are both ranged. One is doing heavy boss damage, one is very good at clearing. And if I don't want to see this anymore, I can simply say, okay, whatever. Let's just swap out the powered Zealot for example, like a Death Knight, which is also a very nice bossing AI Spectre. And where do I have it? Oh, here. Okay. So, and now I can simply pull out these guys, and I got 5 different pretty much builds in a sense, because these guys are my build effectively. And I don't have to do anything. I don't have to redo my sockets like I have to do in PoE1. I can simply say, okay, now I'm going to be playing a whole different build, which gives PoE like a very unique touch and replayability, in my opinion. So I think Spectres are truly the way to go and play PoE2. Yeah. So I really like Spectres and PoE2. I think they're a lot of fun. Very cool design. And yeah, I'll now be showcasing a map run, and then I'll be going a little bit more in depth about how I scale the build, so hope you have fun.
None can oppose me.
Okay, this will be the big part of the video, a showcase of the mechanics within the build. I've historically always done this, so sometimes I would make a forum guide. I doubt I will make one for this. So I'll be going more in depth now in this part of the video. I'll be including timestamps and recording it in separate parts. So I'll go over the goals of the build, the offense, defense, utility, and the spirit. And you can just click through in case you're interested. I'll also be linking the whole character in the description, in case you don't want to listen to the video and simply want to get a quick look over. So let's get into it. The goal of the build is pretty much the goal that I always have with PoE builds, to create a build that is able to do most content and is pretty chill. So when I set out, as I've said before, Spectres allow you to pretty much just do nothing while the Spectres do everything for you. So what you end up doing is pretty much buffing, debuffing. So what I've focused on effectively, I went for the Lich Ascendancy. Most people are doing it a little differently than me, going full ES, or at least for a big ES chunk. What I instead wanted to definitely get is the curses you inflict have infinite duration and apply an additional curse. This allows us to effectively debuff a lot more because we get +1 curse and it's infinite, so we don't have to worry whether the curse is on him and stuff. We just don't have to worry. We just curse once, and that's it. It sticks. I'll also take Hex Bloom, so when an enemy dies, the curse gets transferred, which is a really cool combo. So you curse once in a pack, and if you have a lot of pack size, the whole map gets the curse. And if you combine this with Rupture the Soul, you effectively get screen-wide explosions, which are really, really nice in PoE because you don't have that many explosions outside of Heralds. Really big quality of life. So what you effectively, your playstyle is really just running through, cursing, boom, and your Spectres end up doing the rest, and then they kill them and the explosion goes through. I'm also, oh, second. I also went for a lot of rarity because I wanted to magic find. I know that, so I'm running above 200 rarity right now. That's because I am pretty much not running any uniques outside of my shield. And I pretty much have rarity on every single gear piece. Of course, I could be doing a little bit more damage, a little bit more tanky, but I think minions offer you the ability to just scale up rarity a lot, so I'm magic finding. Which is some of the best parts about PoE, I think. As you might have noticed, I'm running life and ES, and I don't have that much ES, which might sound weird. Most different builds would have 8k ES. I instead go for an armor and ES combo. So I currently have 73% physical damage reduction, 10,000 armor, 73% applied to elemental damage. I know many people say that it doesn't work against bosses, but when you have about a pool of like 6k, and if you have that much mitigation, you're still able to tank. You don't need like 10k ES if you have a lot of mitigation going on. And I prefer this because, especially as a summoner, as you might have seen, you like run in, tank, because you don't have convocation in the game. You have two options. You either weapon swap, so you make your minions spawn, which makes the minions spawn near you effectively. I can showcase. So the minions are here, and you see they spawn like next to me. It's a bit weird like that. That's what some people do. I don't like that. So I prefer just running in, and effectively, if you're far away, the Spectres will just spawn behind you. It doesn't work in hideout, but works in a map. So what ends up happening is you're face tanking a lot of enemies. That means armor is worth its weight in gold. If you don't have any armor, you have a big problem. You really do need armor, because if you don't have any armor, you will die pretty much instantly to pack size. Well, you need either a lot of evade or a lot of armor, but evasion only feels good as Papkan has stated previously. If you have like 20k evasion, which there's no way you'll just stack that easily. So I think armor is easier, cheaper to get, and just more effective. Not to mention, if you go for armor, you can also stack life, because armor is diminishing returns. So you can just get life on your gear, then armor ES life, armor ES life, armor ES on most gear pieces. For example, on the shield, I'm only scaling it up. Yeah, that's why I personally prefer going armor, and I'm also preferring going for a shield, because the 25 block is the same as evade. So we effectively have like 25 evade, and we have physical damage reduction, so we're able to tank most white monsters just very, very easily. Alright, this was the introduction of the build, the base idea of the build. Let me go into offense. As I've stated before, and it's pretty obvious, my Spectres are doing all damage in this build, and I simply buff them. In PoE 2, we don't have that many smart ways to scale minions. On the tree, there are only like very generic minion damage notables, which every minion build will get. It's pretty much non-debatable. Like every single minion build will be taking this generic AoE cluster and generic minion cluster. You get quite a lot of AoE of the tree, which is really cool, especially for minions, and you also get some cooldown reduction, which is also pretty cool and important if you want to clear fast. Get a little bit of revive nodes. I hardly get any tankiness nodes. I'll get into that later, but yeah, that's how I scale off the tree, just some generic minion damage. But other than the tree, I scale it mostly with other sources. So we got the gear on. This is all defensive effectively, like the rings, the belt, the boots, they're all defensive. The only offensive part in the gear that I have for the minions is the amulet, which grants the warlord leader, of course, of the anoint. I also get like plus, and then we're just looking for generic minion skills. Minions are pretty simple like that in PoE2. Just get +2 to minions. I get +2 to minions here, and like a GG corrupt that I did myself. So +4, and then I get +4 of this, so it's +8 of the gear. And of course you get like generic minion damage increases. It's nothing that's really locked in. That's pretty much the cool part in PoE2. Minions are really easy to follow. Like, let's say you have 100 spirit less, you simply take 2 minions less, and you slowly scale up your build. You don't really have any big breakpoints. I got 2 Wither jewels in my gloves, so you have to corrupt the second part, because the Withered magnitude is rising, which is really, really nice. Quality of life if you want to go for chaos damage, which I do, which and Lich especially grants Unholy Might, so 30% damage as extra chaos. In PoE2 we can scale chaos off chaos damage, that's a bit different. So I do 1000 chaos damage, I now do 1300 chaos damage. It's very weird. Very, very weird. So yeah, as extra. That's generic, that's our tree and our and our ascendancy that we get off. Now for the next part, we go for curses. So as you probably noticed, I got 3 curses lying around, and the despair and the elemental weakness do a lot. So the cultist archers are effectively using toxic rain for the most damage part, which is full chaos damage, and they're doing a basic attack, which is a physical damage purely, like a mix of physical and chaos. So this is physical chaos, which we need to scale up or debuff the enemy to. And our powered zealots do physical damage attack, which does a mixture of 50% physical, 50% lightning. And then they mostly spark, which is pure lightning damage. So we have 3 separate sources that we have to scale against, which in PoE1 would be like impossible, while in PoE2 it's pretty easy actually. So we need to reduce elemental res, physical res, and chaos res, which is of course quite a lot, but we can actually make use of this. So how we scale down the chaos res of the enemies, we're using Withering Presence with increased duration, which will combo with the Wither magnitude of the gloves. So we apply like roughly 60% Wither of just standing nearby, which is 60% increased chaos damage taken. Next up, we got Ravenous Swarm, and Ravenous Swarm is an immortal minion, really cool, that you can shred armor with. You simply give armor shredding to them, and they will reduce the enemy of the boss armor within like 3 seconds down to 0, which is very strong. You can also use like quality of life on the Ravenous Swarm, like maim enemies, so 30% slow, and culling strike on the enemies, which is also really nice. While mapping and bossing. So Ravenous Swarm is pretty much utility and debuff. So this is how we take care of physical reduction. This is how we take care of chaos reduction. And to top it off, we got the damage curses. So elemental weakness, which is 58% to all elemental rests, but the magnitude of this is pretty crazy. We got 10% of the quality, 25% of the support gem, and then what I'm using is I'm using a tech that I found out. If you use From Nothing, you can, within a keystone, like Wisps of Doom or any keystone, you can freely select passives. So we don't have to use any travel points here. We can simply take all the curse magnitude notables, like these here, which effectively giga buffs our curse. It's 6, 6, 18, 18, 10. So it's a whole lot of curse magnitude. So I can't do math right now, but it's like roughly plus 80%, maybe even a little bit more curse magnitude, which makes this almost on endgame bosses like an actual minus 58. Same goes for Despair, which we also scale because it's global curse effect. This is mouth-watering for PoE 1 players because we hardly get any curse magnitude in PoE 1, but this is actually OP. I also take the minion clusters here. It's just a high value. And this is like 8 exalts. I don't know why. Maybe people don't know about this yet. Really recommend that. So effectively, enemies take like roughly like 120% increased chaos damage of Disband Withering Presence, just like that, and the curse is permanent, so we don't have to do anything else. That means the Lich Ascendancy works on pretty much every Spectre, because we easily, within like little investment, can reduce the chaos damage down. Elemental Weakness, we also cast once, and this allows us to pretty much use like damage as extra supports, like damage as extra lightning, for example, on any specter we use, or like elemental specters. So this build is like a skeleton for you to use. You can pretty much put any specter on this because we reduce pretty much all resistances. And of course, then we are going for the enfeeble, which of course is also juicy. 29%, juice it up here, juice it up globally, boom, and infinite duration. You can see curses are pretty much our bread and butter. I would say this, you might be noticing, Tim, how did we apply 3 separate curses? We get +1 curse of Incessant Cacophony of the Lich Ascendancy, and then we also get one of the new support gem, which is also nobody's using this, Adziri's Allure. This makes it so we get +1 curse, but it gets reflected back to us, of course, which is why nobody's using it, and 25 less curse effect. But we're a witch, so we're not doing any damage because we're a summoner, so we can use this on Enfeeble. Enfeeble gets back to us, we do -40% less damage, but it doesn't matter because our minions are doing all the damage, so we get +1 free curse of this. So we effectively have 3 infinite curses, which are all very strong, which is some of our most offensive scaling. Last off, Pain Offering. I'm using Pain Offering here. I'm juicing up with Sacrificial Offering, and I'm also using Brutus Brain on it, so it can't be damaged, it's immortal. Most people are using Brutus Brain on the Cleric, but I instead prefer having Last Gas on the Cleric, which is enough. If you have 2 Clerics, they just revive each other. And the offerings, if they're not immortal, will just be instantly one-shot by any boss or highly juiced maps, so I truly think it's necessary to have Brutus Brain on it. I also have Kulamax Dominion on it, which is also a new lineage gem. It's a very cool combo, so let me showcase. If you get 1 additional cleric, it scales off the AoE. So let's get Offering, and then we cast Curse, and you see it gets applied 2 more times. That's because of Kulamax Dominion. Any AoE skill just gets like double tapped off of the offerings. So if we have two, for example, we can get the offering where two are sacrificed. We can just spread curses throughout the whole map. It's pretty cool, especially if you get like additional area on the curse, which I don't have because I don't want to spend too much. Okay, so offering curses, withering presence, revenants, yeah, and that's how we pretty much shred through every single resistance of the enemy. We also get the Malice aura, which gives the enemies like +6 flat chance to be crit. Also pretty neat. I prefer Omen Scepter because it's like 30% of the cost. Nobody wants to wear this because everybody wants the Skeleton Scepters, but these are like very good if you go for that, yeah. Like if you go for Spectres. Okay, that's it for the offense. Quite a lot. Alright, this will be the defense now. I just noticed when looking at my script, I just talked a lot about the defense already. I don't have to repeat it, like I'm scaling a lot of armor and ES, and this enables me to be rather tanky and also get some flat block. I talked about that before. 10k is probably like a nice goal to look forward to. I think what I'll be focusing on, of course, I got the Enfeeble that I also talked about before. I bought it to build into PoE, and it has like 30k hit pool at the moment, which is very good, especially if you don't have that much shield, because most builds inflate their EHP because they're running like 8k ES. But two things to that. ES only works if you combine it with Convalescence, because most ES builds have like no way to do anything once their convalescence is down, so they scale like 10k ES, and they say, okay, whatever, if I get a big hit, I will just instantly revive it. But I think using convalescence is actually just annoying as fuck, I'm not gonna lie. I hate it, which is why I'm not scaling ES. Okay, so one good part about it, we can use Lich, so 10% of damage bypasses the energy shield, and we combine it with this notable, 5% of damage bypasses energy shield, so whenever we take a hit, 15% of that goes into our life, so we can start recovering our life of the hits. And we got a little bit of regen going on, like 50 regen is enough to like slowly recover the hit. We also have the flasks, of course, which we can then use, so we take like 15% less damage effectively, which is a really nice part about splitting the damage into life and ES. So we can, that's 15% less damage taken. We combine it with the Enfeeble, which against normal mapping is like 40% less damage taken. So our effective hit pool is pretty good. We also combine it with a very fast start of energy shield. It's within 2 seconds, so that's a 100% increase. And the recharge rate is also very high, as you can see, so it's 2.5 seconds and we're full again. This is because this notable allows all our increases to armor also reply to energy recharge rate at 40% of the value. Very strong. Just passively scaling this up. And I also have some armor, for example, on the amulet, where you can get a very nice defensive quality. I think that's kind of it for the that's our defensive. Just spreading out the damage, 6.6k hit pool, block, separate recovery, and more quality of life because we don't have to use convalescence and we can actually face tank normal enemies and just AFK sprint in. And of course, we also get raised shield. I sometimes use this for fun. It actually works. It's very, very goofy, but you actually take like no damage if you just do normal mapping and just let your minions do something because you don't have to do anything because your curses are infinite. You can use this and then just fucking put your shield up and just wait. But if you want to, it's kind of memey, but it does work. It reduces the damage by a lot. I don't really use it a lot though, it's too awkward. Last part, I will now be talking about the Spectre links and Spirit Sources and how to scale up Spirit, which of course is very useful, necessary for any minion build. Alright, I pretty much ran down anything else by now. So let's go for links. I explained most of the other links by now. I'm gonna go into the Spectre links now. So first up, this is the Cultist Archer. They do the Chaos Explosion, those bulges, the purple ones. I'm using Nova projectiles. Most people are not using two additional projectiles instead, but I think Nova projectiles is best because they do shotgun for sure, and it's also a little bit bugged. So if you read through this, does not support skills which rain down projectiles from above. Well, it still does work on Spectre's Toxic Rain. So Toxic Rain actually does get, as you can see, 4 additional projectiles. That means that means the downside of it being in a circle is fully negated on Cultist Archers. So if you are sitting at like 8 Cultist Archers and they all Toxic Rain, it will all shotgun effectively because it will all be in a pretty pretty low area. It's a little bit of a bug because if Toxic Rain would be like a player skill, it wouldn't apply. So a very cool combo that pretty much nobody's using. I'm also thinking they also have another one. Like most Spectres have another ability that isn't listed. They also have like a snipe ability that also applies the purple bulges. And that gives you great clear if it goes into all directions. So overall, Nova Projectiles really is best in my opinion. Muster, just a nice damage build, that's 21% more damage. Magnified Area is to make it shotgun better. Of course, we have a lot of area, and Magnified Area also increases where the bulges are landing. It's a little bit iffy, but you know how it be. Toxic Rain is always hard to truly put into numbers. I still take it. I think it's better, especially because we use this mostly for clearing. Feeding Frenzy, just for more damage. We negate like they have like no HP. They have like 6,300. Most Spectres are sitting at like 10k. But we're using Tekro's Revenge, which is the upgraded version of Last Gasp. So the minions don't die for 10 whole seconds after being effectively supposed to be dead. They also gain Soul Eater and they gain 20 attack and cast speed. So this is absolutely huge because these Spectres will have way more uptime this way, since they will often get healed because we're always running like 2 clerics. They actually do stick around quite a while, so I would really recommend this if you're gonna be using squishy Spectres. Yeah, on the powered Zealots, I'm using Vaal Shards because I think this works better. I considered going Nova Projectiles, but I damage tested, and no, Vaal Shards 2 is just better. It just works very well with Spark because of the shotgunning. Feeding Frenzy, of course. Must muster just generic damage sources. I'm using Pierce, so this is infinite Pierce, which is fucking insane. There's no limit compared to PoE 1, so they infinitely pierce. There is no limit. It's very strong. And the downside is negligible. I know, insane, actually insane. That's why Spark is so strong on PoE 2, especially on monsters. And I'm using Ashes Radiance, so the lightning damage it does then gets added on top as chaos damage, and then we also scale the chaos damage. I will say this, there's no double dipping in PoE 2, so the more multiplier of lightning damage does not get applied again to the lightning damage that has been added on top as chaos. Still though, it works separately, so it's 30% increased lightning, physical, and chaos. It's better this way, especially if you do like split damage sources like this build does. This build does lightning, chaos, and physical damage effectively. So it's better to take global damage sources. Other people would take more lightning damage focused ability supports. But on Lich, this setup with more global damage setups is better. Okay, those are the most important links here. On Skeletal Cleric, it's pretty generic what I'm using. You can check that out later. Of course, the Malice Aura is something that I haven't talked. I think I did talk about. Very strong. I do recommend it because it's flat crit. It's also like that would be insane in PoE 1. The Malice Aura, because it grants like 6 flat crit after a couple of seconds, which is insane, but since it's very, very hard to scale minion crit, not that insane, but still insane. Okay, Spirit Sources on Summoners. There are three generic sources mostly, so it's number one, of course, is the Scepter. That's where you will look for the most spirit, and the more spirit you have, the more money it will cost. So you're looking for plus the minion skills, and spirit is the most important aspects of a Scepter. That's how they get more expensive. I will say this, if you go for an Omen Scepter instead of the other skeletal version, like the Rattling Scepter, um, it will be way cheaper compared to the Omen Scepter is way cheaper than the Rattling Scepter, and since we don't really need Skeletal Warrior minions, Omen Scepter is just straight up better. Go for this one. And you of course get the Malice Aura on top. Look for like 150 spirit. I corrupted the increased spirit on top, so this one is pretty good. It's like 10 divines likely. And the next spirit source will be from amulets. You can get generic spirit, of course. When you combine spirit and minion gems, it can get expensive. It goes up to +3 to all minion skills. Definitely look for that. That's the next spirit source. The next spirit source is you can get as a mod that is pretty hard to achieve. Reduced spirit reservation or as a helmet mod. Pretty hard to get though. You can search for that though. You will definitely find it. And then you can get a rune socket, increased reservation efficiency. That's how most minion builds. They stack a lot of these, and that's where it gets really expensive. We don't need it really, because our damage is just fine with how much we have. So we have one. Most people are using the belt. That allows two of them to be socketed in. So they get like way more reservation efficiency. But I prefer having a normal belt just to get the rest, because we're running Rarity everywhere. And we're running armor applied as elemental damage. We're pretty starved on suffixes, so just a normal belt is better. So one reservation efficiency jewel will be absolutely enough. The next source is the chest. You can get spirit as implicits here and spirit as an explicit. I truly recommend getting as much spirit as you can on these. Oh, 7 divine soul. That's pretty nice. Thank you. I truly recommend getting a chest with like lots of armor and DS and spirit. Yeah, so these are like the most spirit sources, and then we have the Prism Guardian. That's like 2 divines. This one is worth like a lot because I corrupted it to be weird, but this gives you +1 max spirit per 25 max life usually. So that's like roughly like 120 spirit, just like that for a shield. Try to get this. This is 2 divines. If you don't get this, simply get like a normal shield with lots of block and stats, and then get a better amulet instead. Okay, yeah, those are the spirit sources that you need. We're not using Bones of Allrounder because we're using Spectres, and Spectres that aren't considered undead, won't get reduced by Bones of Allrounder, so we don't need it. We can instead get life and rarity and stats. And we're also not using Venturous Gamble because, again, we're looking for a lot of rarity stacking, and that's why we're kind of starved on stats. That's why we're not using Ventus. If you would want to go for a little bit more damage, a little bit more spirit, you could swap out both of these for Ventus Gamble, but just lose the rarity a little, get 20 spirit on each. But at a certain point, it's like, why? I think like 487 spirit is enough. If you can just get like a... If you want to get more spirit, get the belt with the double reservation efficiency if you want to push it up. But other than that, I would stick with this. Yeah. Of course, we should talk as a finishing aspect of this guide. I will also talk about corruption. PoE corruption is weird because there are less negative outcomes. So you might have noticed all of my gear is corrupted.
I'll post it right away.
Right? So I'm using an Omen of, and that's I'll explain. So in PoE, you have 4 outcomes. That's how, like, most of my gear, as you can see, is corrupted, right? Like every single gear piece almost outside of the rings. And it's mostly good. that's because of this. There are four outcomes. First outcome is no outcome. Second outcome is another socket. Third outcome is re-rolling the stats. And fourth outcome is getting another implicit, like a magic implicit, like for example, like this dexterity. So if you followed me, you have two good outcomes, one neutral outcome, and one negative outcome. So as you might have imagined, in PoE instead, you have like 50% bad outcomes. So what you do is, I would truly recommend grabbing Omen of Corruption, right click. That's how we reduce the nothing outcome to 0. So now we have one negative and two positive outcomes, and then just corrupt, like when you're starting to min-max, just corrupt everything. It's honestly in PoE 2, I would just fucking start corrupting stuff. Like this is, you get so cool outcomes. For example, I corrupted this, I got two sockets here, I got a good outcome here, good outcome here. I would really recommend. Of course, I also bricked a lot of stuff, probably like 30 divines worth of stuff I bricked, but I gained way more. So I would truly recommend use Omen of Corruption, corrupt your gear. Yeah, that's been the guide. I hope you learned something. I hope it's been interesting. I had a lot of fun cutting it. I'm getting better at this stuff. Some viewers might have noticed that there's been some clips interspliced. Yeah. Other than that, I recommend try out Spectres if you don't really like PoE 2 yet. It's really cool. It's a lot of longevity. It will probably get me back into playing PoE 2 a little bit more. Yeah. Consider subscribing if you liked it. Consider commenting, liking, all that stuff. Keeps me motivated. It's just a lot of fun. That's been it. I'm Tim. Goodbye.